You're listening to the Luxe Life Discover podcast, where we talk with people who are living a lifestyle that reflects their passion, because we believe everyone should be living their best life, their Luxe Life. The show is hosted by Rick Steiner with Steiner Event Group, a premier national event planning company, and co-hosted by Shannon Richmond, the vice president of the Panama City Beach Chamber of Commerce. Today, we're having a conversation with Joanna Davis, a counselor by day and self-proclaimed foodie at all other times. Joanna runs the 850 Foodie Brand. How did she take her love for her heritage and love for food and turn it into a lifestyle brand? Joanna shares everything she loves and what she's learned so that you can live your Luxe life.
Okay, so Shannon, what do you think of when you think of foodie?
I'm hungry.
All right, well, Joanna, tell us what a foodie actually is.
Oh, gosh. I guess a foodie would be someone who is willing to adventure and try all sorts of foods. And it's really a love language, I think. And, I'm a counselor by day, foodie by night. When they talk about the 5 love languages, to me, like, the love of food and speaking through food should really be like number 6. Because really it is a way of life. It's whether it's how you show love to people or how you want to receive love, like through food. I mean, for me, it's been just such a fun ride. I never really expected it to turn out to be what it's become for me as the 850 foodie, but I've really enjoyed it. And really, it's been a lot about making connections and meeting people along the way, business owners, other foodies, and people that I regularly interact with that we just love talking about food. We could talk about food all day long. So.
Well, we've started following each other on Instagram. Mm-hmm. It's been some time ago, but yeah. So I was intrigued by it because I'm like, I don't know what a foodie does.
Okay.
So tell me how you got started, what all it involves, and then we'll go from there.
So I think for me, it first started, social media, Facebook, you see like friends posting pictures. And at one point, a few years back, I saw a friend who said she was part of the Yelp Elite. I'm like, what is the Yelp Elite? Like, what does that mean? And so I had asked her about it, and come to find out if, through the Yelp app, there's this status that you get for people who regularly leave reviews and pictures and interact and engage, where you become part of this elite status. And for me, the big draw was being part of the Yelp Elite. You sometimes get free food and get invites to, certain occasions and whatnot. So to me, the grab was like, oh, free food. How do I get in on this,
And that can be specific to a certain locale?
Yes.
Okay.
So I got involved in the Yelp Elite, but to my disappointment, it's not very big in this area. So like for us, you have Yelp Elite in Tallahassee and Mobile, but you don't have events going on in Destin, Pensacola, Panama City area. So really to like get the perks out of it, you got to live in a place like Tampa or Miami, Atlanta, those type of places. So then from there, I started to get involved social media wise on Facebook. And so I got in different groups. There was like, where I live in Navarre, there's a page called Navarre Restaurant Reviews. And then there's another place called Foodies of the Florida Panhandle. But I quickly got turned off to these Facebook groups because it was just so negative, negative. Yeah. And it's funny because the Navarre Restaurant Review page, Navarre is a small town. We probably have like 10 restaurants. You can only review the same restaurants so many times. And, I hate to say it, but I think the cliche is, you have the warriors behind the screens and you get the Karens that come out. And I really got saddened to see a lot of these businesses just get ripped apart by people in the community. So from there, I would show up to little foodie meetups, and we could talk food all day long. People who've known me for a long time will tell you, I can talk about food for days. And so I enjoyed that community and that connectedness with other people, but I didn't like the negativity. And, I'm a 30-year local. My dad was in the military, retired here when I was 10. And so for me, I've seen a lot of businesses come and go. And I know that, to be a business owner, you put your heart and soul into a business. Mm-hmm. And to see a lot of these restaurants fall apart, probably because maybe some of these online reviews. And so my husband, I would just kind of vent to him I want to start my own page. And he's like, why don't you? And I'm like, well, I don't want to seem like I'm copying these other Facebook pages. And then one day it just kind of dawned on me. I'm like, well, there's Instagram. Let me see. I don't know if people do food on Instagram. Maybe it's just going to be me posting pictures of my own food. And so I just one day just started a page. And it was during the pandemic. So I had a lot of time on my hands to be online and whatnot. started the 850 Foodie page, and then it just unexpectedly took off, like people who took an interest into my posts and, engaging back and forth and making friends and connections. And just, it's so funny, when I started the page, I remember I told my husband, I was like, well, maybe I might get free food out of it eventually, And it's been cool because now, like, I get invites to, new restaurants opening, soft openings, and we'll get like free meals, free drinks, free cocktails, desserts, everything, paid for. And it's just been really, really cool. And I've gotten to know a lot of owners of different restaurants, and, just those connections that you make, I think, are really important too.
So in a new restaurant, because there was a couple that opened in Destin recently that you were at.
Yeah.
So they reached out to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did that part start? Because I know there has to be a starting point somewhere where they learned about you and what you do.
So, I'll follow restaurants, and, a lot of times I can spend hours just kind of so when I was on Yelp, for example, that I have a background in fitness years ago before my foodie days. I used to do fitness competitions, and I remember being deprived of eating all this good food.
That's why you're a foodie.
Yes, yeah. And so up to preparing for my contest days, and I'd be so agitated and hangry. Yeah. I would spend hours on Yelp just looking at restaurant pages, food, just scrolling, right? So now, now I can do it for an enjoyment and fulfill that want and need. And so I'd follow restaurants, I'd, post about them. And I'm a believer if I don't have anything good to say about them, I'm not going to say anything at all. So if I eat somewhere, if I eat somewhere and it wasn't a good experience, I'm not going to post about them. But a lot of times when I do enjoy a place, and not some restaurants 10 out of 10, everything about the place is wonderful. Some restaurants, it might be one meal that I just really enjoy, but I can't really vouch for other stuff on the menu. But I'll highlight the things that I like about it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and so, I'll tag them, and then they'll see me, and they might share my posts about them on their page, and that's kind of what starts that engagement from there. So, a lot of times they'll reach out to me. Somebody will DM me and say, hey, we have a soft opening coming. Would you like to come? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I'll be right there. But I will tell you that can be a double-edged sword, because I don't know what to expect when I go there. Because what if I don't like it, right?
That's what I was going to say. What happens if you don't like it?
I know. So again, it's kind of one of those things where I may if it's a really bad experience, I won't post about it at all.
And what does that restaurant say? It's like, hey, you were here. We don't see anything.
So, okay, for example, somebody hit me up, a restaurant opened recently, asked me to come out for a soft opening, but it wasn't fully comped. So I didn't feel so bad about not posting. And they invited a lot of people in the community. For the most part, most of our food experience service was good, but there was one aspect about the meal that our group was really turned off by. So I did not post about them, but I did post on my stories. I'll post a picture of maybe a food item that we really liked. And then what will happen is people who engage with me regularly might DM me, ask questions, and then I'll kind of give them my unfiltered, uncensored feedback or whatnot. So yeah, and that gets to be tough, especially with the smaller businesses.
Yeah.
Like today, the place that I went to before I came here, it's a chain. So I put it on my stories that I didn't care for the food, but it's a chain. It's not going to hurt that company, But if it's a small mom and pop company, I'm not going to say anything damaging.
This episode of Luxe Life Discovered is brought to you in part by Steiner Event Group. Steiner Event Group is a national event planner that produces results for their clients. They offer event and wedding planning on any scale, hosting bridal shows, scouting talented models, and producing riveting concept photo shoots to help their clients expand their brands, products, and services. Whether you're a business professional aiming to take your brand to the next level, planning a corporate or private event, a bride seeking to have the wedding of your dreams, or a model ready to be discovered, Steiner Event Group is ready for you.
So unusual today.
What? For somebody not to, to not be negative?
You think so?
Yeah.
Yes. Unfortunately, people, like you were talking about the pages before.
Yeah.
I mean, they'd welcome the opportunity just to get on there and be a Karen and just be negative.
Yeah.
I love that you guys are using the word Karen.
And it is what it is, right? Yeah.
Poor Karens that are named Karen, they're like, we don't deserve that.
I know.
No, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And maybe it comes from my background as a mental health counselor. We're always trying to look at the positives.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So
how did you get into that profession?
How did I get it? Well, like I said, I've lived in this area for a long time. I think I always knew I was going to be in the helping profession. My mom, Filipino. If you know anything about the Filipino culture, that's probably what made me the start of planting the seeds of being a foodie is being of Asian descent. Like food is a big part of our culture.
Right.
If you've ever been to a Filipino party, it's tons and tons and tons of food, and they're constantly trying to stuff food down your throat. And then they insist that you take to-go foods. It's just, and if you ever visit a country like third world countries like the Philippines, you realize that food is their way of life. It's how they socialize with their neighbors. It's how they make money on the street. It's how they celebrate events. So my mom growing up, always talked to me about being a nurse, and that's kind of in the Filipino community, it's kind of a joke that Filipinos, their kids become nurses. So I thought I was going to be a nurse. Went to college thinking I was going to be a nurse, and then I took an anatomy physiology class, and I realized I really suck at science. I couldn't do it. It was like reading a third language, and so anyhow, that's when I was working at that time in a counseling office, and so I decided, if I'm going to go into a helping profession, I think I could do the psychology thing. And so, I've been a counselor. I'm 42 now, and I've been a counselor, 17 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I've done different things. I've worked in nonprofits, for-profit, different agencies. I've worked some private practice on the side, and now I work just full-time at schools, and I work with high school kids, and I love what I do,
And eat at night.
Yes, and I eat at night, yeah. And they love talking food with me, so It's always fun with them, too.
Well, so
Okay. And then we'd go, and he'd be like, man, this is really good. I was like,
so think of all the things that he's missed out on that he's just automatically assuming.
And to me, the hole in the walls are the best places.
You're exactly right, yeah.
And it's funny, too, because even on my food page, I'll get the most likes or comments and responses over a hole in the wall or a food truck versus a really nice, fancy, posh restaurant, you know? So I think a lot of people...
That's probably because it can go to anybody. Anybody can go to one of those places.
Yeah, because maybe not everybody can afford going to one of the posh places. So, yeah, that's a good point.
I was just thinking, well, gosh, I wouldn't be able to go to fancy places a lot.
Yeah.
We got to save up for that fancy place. So it's really nice that you do a whole bunch of different places. So it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, and I can appreciate diversity in my foods too. So I love like ethnic foods and all that. But it definitely has been a lot of like molding my husband. But it's funny now because so at first when I was doing my food page, and it was his suggestion, why don't you just start your own, right? So we'd go to restaurants and we'd order our food and our 15-year-old son would be there, and as soon as the food comes out, I'd be like, hold on, wait, I got to take a picture, and I'd set up my camera, and they're hungry, and the food is like steaming hot, and their first responses would be like, eye rolls,
disgust,
lots of eye rolls, and I'd have to like hurry up and get the pic or whatever. But then once I started getting all these like opportunities for free
That changed their attitude.
do you know my husband now when we go out to eat, he's like, hold on, let me set up the plate for you. Hold on, let's move everything around, or here.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's good.
So I've trained him really well, right?
Yes.
And it's funny because like even if we go out of town somewhere, like we were in Kentucky, and he's like, oh, do you need a picture of the food? I'm like, no, I'm good, because really and truly the people who follow me probably doesn't care about food in Louisville, he'll be like, no, go ahead, let's take a picture. You should.
Depends on where you're live. My daughter lives there.
My husband's mom is from Louisville. Which the food options there are not the greatest.
I was trying to be positive.
Right, good for you.
Good try, Rick.
I'll try. That was the best I could.
This episode of Luxe Life Discovered is brought to you in part by Steiner Event Group. Steiner Event Group is a national event planner that produces results for their clients. They offer event and wedding planning on any scale, hosting bridal shows, scouting talented models, and producing riveting concept photo shoots to help their clients expand their brands, products, and services. Whether you're a business professional aiming to take your brand to the next level, planning a corporate or private event, a bride seeking to have the wedding of your dreams, or a model ready to be discovered, Steiner Event Group is ready for you.
So what is the weirdest food you've ever eaten? But weird to you might not be weird to me.
Yes. So even though I'm a foodie, I would say I'm a meat and potatoes foodie.
Okay.
So, I think there's different styles of foodies. You have the bougie foodies that, know all this like, exotic foods and whatnot. I'm pretty straightforward meat and potatoes kind of girl. So like my first time eating escargot was not that long ago at this Pensacola great restaurant that we absolutely love. I would have to say that was interesting. It was very chewy. I don't even know what I would compare it to. Have you had escargot?
No, intentionally, no.
Yeah. It was.
I have one time, but if I would have known what it was when I ate it, I probably wouldn't have eaten it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't horrible.
Okay.
It was different.
Yeah, it was
and
chewy.
it had a weird texture.
Yeah.
But I didn't know what it was, so I ate it. But if you offered it to me today, I'd probably say no thank you.
I think I'm a one and done. I mean, maybe if I went to Paris, which that's on the bucket list, at some point, I would probably try it again. I've never had venison until recently.
Did you like it?
So when they talk about, gamey meats, I definitely knew right away what they meant by gamey meats because it definitely had that flavor.
Okay.
So I don't think I was a fan. So I will say that now that I have this foodie page, I feel almost like it's my responsibility and duty now to try different things. Yeah. Because I have been a person of comfort, and I would always order like the same meals at my favorite restaurants. And now I try to switch it up and do different things. But I will say that because we go out to eat so much now, I will say it's hard to like really blow me away nowadays. With
That's
food.
what I was gonna say.
It's almost like I've become desensitized because
I hadn't thought about that. That makes sense.
Because I eat fabulous food all the time. So when you have those moments like, of a meal that just kind of leaves you like craving it and thinking about it for like 30 minutes to an hour after you leave it, like that's to me like a mind-blowing food experience.
Mm-hmm.
But, and it happens every now and then, but like the place that I went to recently, I went to that Beach Camp Brew Pub, and so that's in Destin, their own Same owners as the craft bar and the wine bar.
Okay.
And I had like a Parmesan crusted grouper, and amazing. But I bet you if I came back to order it again, it probably
May
wouldn't
not be the same.
Yeah.
Wouldn't wow you.
It wouldn't wow me the same.
Yeah.
But I also learned that too in my fitness experiences too. When I was deprived of, eating all this wonderful food, I realized like food to our brains is a lot like, we respond to food a lot like we would like a drug, right? Because it like lights up that happy pleasure center in our brain. And when I was on my prep, and I could only eat basically chicken and turkey and, asparagus and the most blandest foods ever.
The stuff you swore you'd never eat again.
Yeah, I realized like my brain went through a period of this depressed state because I was deprived of things that made me happy, you know? And this is why I realized like the fitness athlete life was not for me, is because after my competitions were done, I would totally fall off the wagon, which is a no-no in the fitness world.
Mm-hmm.
You have to really kind of try to be strict and maintain, not as severe as strict.
Still, yeah.
But no, I would just go crazy, return back to like normal eating. But again, it's like the brain being deprived of a drug, and I've worked in rehab centers, so I understand that process. So a person who's been like off of meth or oxy or whatever, and they stay clean, they go through rehab, they leave the rehab center, and then they relapse. It's like that brain discovers like, oh my God, I missed you so much. And then they're like, more. And that's to me what food was during that fitness time in my life. And I would just go crazy nuts. Like I would just think about food all the time. But it's funny though, and here I am, a counselor, psychology being my major. It's like I've been my own case study. Yeah, I've been my own guinea pig. And what I've learned is whether I'm on prep or whether I'm eating all the foods that I love, I think about food all the time either way. And I'm always hungry, so it doesn't make a difference.
So what is the simplest food that you had that you were really blown away by? Like, oh my gosh, that was so simple, but the way they did it was so good.
Oh.
And made you think about it for 30 minutes.
I'm a big pizza person. So like when you find a good pizza, that can be hard to find, but it's almost kind of an adventure to like find
a really good pizza.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have like this, like we went to Pensacola recently, ordered a pizza, and I was not excited at all and I didn't post about them, but I did put on my story like one of the foods that we liked there. Yeah. But when it comes to like my favorite place, like I'm thinking and dreaming about it and, bugging my husband like, oh, I want to go back there. I want to go eat there. So, yeah, I think it's the simple pleasures of, like I have a friend who's like his page is Hype Beast Burger. So he's, all experts of all burgers, and he definitely knows his craft. But for me, if there was that one simple pleasure, I think for me it would be pizza, for sure. Yeah.
We're going to have to think of a food that desserts. We could be desserties.
Oh.
That would be.
Would you guys be dessert people?
Oh, yeah.
But the question is, now I have found that dessert people are either one of two types.
Uh-oh.
Either you're an ice cream person or you're like a cake donut
really?
person.
Wow.
What do you tend to crave
That's
more
true.
of?
My husband's the ice cream. I'm the cake and donuts.
I'm a cake and donuts person too. My best friend is an ice cream person, and I could care less about ice cream. What are you?
I'd have to go with cake and donut.
Yeah. So I think we like the flour versus like.
I like a base,
creamy.
like it's something. Like that ice cream is like.
But I want the ice
gone.
cream with it.
Of course you do.
Yeah.
Sure, I want it all. So yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting though. But it is fun with social media how people have found certain niches and just stayed with it. And I think this like I said, when I ran across your page, I thought I've never talked to a foodie.
Yeah.
I don't know what a foodie actually does. But
Yeah, and I would love. You never know. Maybe it's going to evolve into something else. The other day, I was telling my husband, I was like, it would be nice if one day we could start like claiming tax write-offs for all the times we go out to eat, if we can make it into a business or something like that.
Well, you could do it LLC and do it.
Yeah, and this is kind of why, like, my son, who has gotten into social marketing and videography and digital content, he's been kind of partnering with me recently with some of my videos, and he's been behind the camera, and we've posted some really nice videos for some restaurants, and you never know. At some point, it might turn into,
that's
maybe
awesome.
a business with him. Yeah.
Well, your favorite place in Pensacola?
Okay. So, again, it depends. There's different levels of restaurants.
Because,
I mean,
that's hard to say.
That's going to be hard.
Yeah, like fine dining. And I will tell you, like, if I have to choose between, like, do I want to go to, like, Pensacola, Floral Beach, Navarre, or, like, Destin, Panama City? Like, Pensacola is probably the area I get the most excited about. Surprisingly, least excited is Destin area.
Interesting.
Yeah, Destin, because it's such a touristy area, there's only a few restaurants that really do it well. And, you can only go to those places so many times. And a lot of times now, with it being tourist season, you could wait like 2 hours for those places. So you just avoid them altogether.
So, but now when you go, you get special treatment. You don't have to wait.
No.
Really?
I mean,
that could affect
not all the time. Not all the time.
That could affect your
review.
Yeah.
Well, and every now
Well,
and
the wait sucks.
yeah, and every now and then I'll try to be kind of innocent and coy about it. I'll like message the place and say, "Hey, do you take reservations?" Innocently asking. They'll be like, "Well, no, but if we'll make reservations for you. What day do you plan on coming in?" So sometimes I'll try to pull that connection or something like that. But Pensacola, I do like Pensacola a lot because it's just a lot of diversity there, a lot of different ethnic foods, Greek to Indian and Vietnamese, and there's a lot of breweries. It's very hipstery kind of town too, so a lot of like cool places. Versus like Destin, a lot of it is kind of like that harbor type of feel, boat side, so it's kind of like the same type of vibe that you get there. Favorite restaurants, we like Global Grill out there, which they're known for their tapas, and Iron, which is where I tried the escargot, is one of our favorites, but it's an expensive spot. My son and my husband, they both love it, and they're really well known for like being the best taco truck around town or in this area. I think they've been like even in the news for like rankings of like top 10 in the United States. It's Taqueria El Asador, and if you ever look them up on Yelp, they've got like thousands of like 5-star reviews.
Wow.
And it's funny because like it's totally unsuspecting. They're located behind a gas station, this little kind of grimy, suspicious area.
Hole in the wall. Yeah.
Yeah, but the line will be super long. There's all these people, like everybody knows about them.
And when the line's long, it's good.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, good. Well, thank you so much for being with us, because you've answered a lot of my questions, but you've also intrigued me. So it's going to do a lot more research on this as well.
Well, thank you for having me on. This has been fun.
Thanks for listening to the Luxe Life Discovered podcast. Are you ready for your Luxe Life? If you learned anything from this episode, be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcast. We'll see you next week.